The mop water hit the floor just as the laughter did. Not from joy, from mockery. Lina stood still, gripping the handle of her mop as a group of senior marketing execs passed by the glass hallway. Polished shoes, tailored suits, perfect hair. They weren't whispering. They wanted her to hear. God, do they really have her cleaning during client walkthroughs? She's been here 10 years and still hasn't figured out bleach from glass cleaner. Hey, Lina missed a spot. It's called your future. The last line earned full-blown laughter. Lina didn't look up. She never did. Not since the day they called her furniture with a name tag. She just kept mopping, the soles of her discount sneakers squeaking on the glossy tile of the executive wing. In the corner of the corridor, unnoticed and waiting for an elevator, stood a man in a gray hoodie, dark jeans, and a baseball cap pulled low. No one acknowledged him. Not the executives. Not the receptionists. Not even Lina, which was exactly how Keanu Reeves preferred it. He watched the men walk past, heard every word, saw the way Lina's jaw tightened, but her hand stayed gentle on the handle. Not once did she retaliate. Not once did she snap back, but she didn't shrink either. She just kept going, floor to floor, insult to insult. It was her job. But this time, someone else was watching. The glass conference room was a fishbowl of egos. 12 executives seated around a long oak table, each armed with espresso shots, sleek laptops, and a belief that their ideas could sell the moon if only someone else would package it prettier. At the head, Trent Garvey, regional director, impeccably dressed, impeccably dismissive. He tapped the screen behind him. We're launching the Empathy Matters campaign next quarter. Think TED Talk meets minimalist fashion. Authenticity is hot right now. The room murmured in approval. One woman raised a hand. Selena, younger, newer, and possibly the only one still under the illusion that ideas mattered more than politics. Should we maybe involve lower-level staff? Real stories? Might be more genuine if... Trent waved her off without even looking. We're not filming janitors. Selena, we're selling sincerity, not reality. Laughter again. Forced. Complicit. Outside the glass, Lina walked past with her mop bucket. She didn't look in, but she heard it. Every word. She'd heard it for years. Near the receptionist's desk, Keanu leaned casually against the wall, sipping a paper cup of lukewarm coffee. He hadn't come for a meeting. He'd come for a tour. Or at least, that's what he told the building manager. But what he really came for was something else. To see. The receptionist looked up, still unsure who he was or why he had access to the 10th floor. Are you with anyone? She asked. Keanu smiled kindly. Nope. Just watching the company sell empathy. She blinked. Excuse me. But he was already walking, slowly, calmly, down the hallway Lina had just cleaned. In the conference room, Trent ended the meeting with his signature line. Perception is everything. People don't care who's behind the curtain. Just make sure it's branded. He didn't see Keanu pass by the glass behind him, but Selena did, and for a second, just a second, her eyes widened. Lina was rinsing out her mop bucket in the maintenance room tucked behind the service elevator. The bleach smell clung to her skin, but she'd stopped noticing years ago. She rubbed her wrists. The ache was setting in early today. Maybe it was the laughter. Maybe it was just getting old. She was about to close the door when she heard a soft voice behind her. Excuse me. She turned. A man stood there holding 2 paper cups of coffee, slightly out of place. Hoodie, beard, easy posture. But there was something careful in the way he stood, like he didn't want to take up more space than necessary. I think I owe you this, he said, offering her one of the cups. Lina blinked. Do I know you? He smiled. No, but I watch people who do. And they treated you like a smudge on the floor. She paused, uncertain. He extended the cup a little farther. This floor is supposed to shine, right? That earned a short breath of a laugh from her. The first all day. She took the cup. Thanks, but I'm not really allowed to talk to visitors. I'm not really a visitor, he said. She narrowed her eyes. Security? He shook his head. Just someone who remembers what a mop bucket feels like. Lina studied him again. He didn't flinch from her gaze. Didn't glance at her uniform or shoes like they were a costume. He saw her, not the title, not the badge. Her. Back upstairs, Trent was in his office shouting into a Bluetooth earpiece about budget caps and social optics. He didn't know that the man he'd barely noticed had just made Lina smile with 6 words and a $1.25 cup of coffee. And he definitely didn't know that a woman who felt invisible for 10 years had just started to feel seen. Keanu returned to the lobby, his pace unhurried, as if he had all the time in the world and no one to impress. The receptionist, still watching him cautiously, looked up as he approached again. "You've been up there a while," she said. Keanu nodded. "Beautiful view." She waited for more. When it didn't come, she added, "Did you find what you were looking for?" He looked at her thoughtfully, then very gently, "Is Lina on the org chart?" The receptionist blinked. "Lina? The woman who cleans your floors." She hesitated. I don't know. I mean, she's facilities. Outsourced, I think." Keanu gave a small smile. "So she doesn't count, but she keeps everything standing?" The question hung there. He didn't push it, didn't scold. But the receptionist looked down, suddenly unsure. "Just something to think about," he said kindly, before turning and heading toward the glass doors. Back upstairs, Selena sat at her desk, rereading the notes from the meeting. The words, "Empathy matters," stared back at her from the top of the campaign brief, like a dare. She couldn't get his face out of her head. That man in the hoodie. She opened a new tab and typed Keanu Reeves gray hoodie. The results answered more than she expected. Her hand went to her mouth. "Oh my God," she whispered. Meanwhile, in the break room, Trent was barking at 2 junior staffers about the branding colors for their authenticity rollout. "I don't want soft neutrals," he snapped. "I want strength. I want silent power. That kind of presence that makes people shut up and listen." He didn't realize that he'd just described a man who walked quietly past his office an hour earlier. The one he dismissed. The one who'd already started changing everything. The first ping came in at 4:12 p.m. Trent glanced at his phone, barely registering the email subject. Request from Reeves Holdings. Internal creative consultation. He frowned. He hadn't heard of a Reeves Holdings. He opened the message, ready to forward it to legal, until he saw the sender's signature. K. Reeves, Private Portfolio Branch. And beneath that, interested in discussing collaboration around silent impact branding. Would like to meet with your in-house cleaning staff, specifically Lina. Trent froze. "Lina?" He reread the email. It wasn't a prank. It wasn't spam. The tone was polite, professional, but unmistakably direct. And it came from that Keanu Reeves. Meanwhile, downstairs, Lina was finishing the last stretch of her shift, wiping a coffee stain off the window glass near the front door. She hadn't seen Keanu since their quiet exchange in the supply room. She thought maybe it was a fluke, a kind gesture, and nothing more. She had no idea her name had just sent a ripple through the entire upper floor. In the break room, Selena and Chloe, HR, stood whispering. "Did you hear what he asked?" Selena said, eyes wide. Chloe nodded. "Yeah, Trent's flipping out. Wants to know who let her speak to him." "Let her." Chloe lowered her voice. "He's afraid she'll say something. You know, about the culture." Selena shook her head. "She doesn't have to say anything. All he has to do is watch how she's treated." In Trent's office, a meeting was forming fast. Legal, HR, branding. He slammed the lid on his laptop. "This is a nightmare," he muttered. "Wire." He was supposed to see us. The room fell awkwardly silent, because somewhere deep down, everyone was thinking the same thing. Maybe she was the only real thing he saw. The following morning, Lina was called into HR for the first time in her 10 years of mopping marble floors. She arrived in her janitor's uniform, holding a folded paper towel in one hand and her ID badge in the other, as if someone might take it away. Chloe, the HR rep, smiled too brightly. "Hi, Lina. We just wanted to check in. You've been selected to potentially participate in a branding initiative." Lina blinked. "Me?" "Sort of. There's a visitor, a potential partner, who might want to talk with you. Just an informal thing. Lina looked confused. Why me? Chloe's smile wavered. We're not entirely sure. That was a lie. Everyone upstairs knew exactly why. Because he'd asked, by name. Meanwhile, Trent was pacing behind his desk, tugging at his shirt collar like it had started choking him. This can't go wide, he barked to his assistant. If the staff hears Reeves is building a campaign around the janitor, morale will tank. His assistant frowned. Wouldn't that actually improve morale? Trent stopped pacing, stared. Schedule a one-on-one with her. In my office, before he shows up. At 11:03 a.m., Lina entered Trent's office for the first time ever. It smelled like cologne and control. He didn't offer her a seat. Lina, he began, voice dripping with false warmth. You've been requested to be part of a creative initiative. Very exciting. She nodded slowly. But just so we're aligned, this won't affect your duties, and we prefer if you didn't share internal details with outside parties. She frowned. What details? Trent leaned forward. You know, things about staff, or how the team works. Lina looked at him for a long moment and said gently, You mean how they treat me? Trent froze. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. I don't plan on lying, Lina added, but I wasn't planning on talking about you either. And with that, she turned and walked out. In the hallway, Chloe waited, wringing her hands. How did it go? She asked. Lina smiled, not with smugness, but with something new. Ease. He said not to talk, she replied. So I'm thinking maybe it's time someone did. The elevator pinged softly at 3:17 p.m. No grand arrival. No entourage. Just Keanu Reeves stepping into the 10th floor lobby with a quiet nod to the receptionist, who nearly dropped her phone trying not to stare. Selena stood waiting nearby, holding a notepad she hadn't touched since he walked in. Mr. Reeves, she said nervously. We're honored to... Keanu smiled, kind and simple. Just Keanu. And I'm not here for your campaign deck. He glanced around. Is Lina here? Selena blinked. Yes. She's cleaning the stairwell. He nodded. Perfect. Lina didn't hear him approach at first. She was scrubbing a scuffed tile near the fire exit, the same one Trent's scuffed Prada loafers had marked up earlier that week. Then a voice, calm, familiar, echoed gently down the stairwell. It's always the quiet corners that get overlooked. She turned. Keanu stood a few steps above, coffee in one hand, eyes steady. No cameras today? She said, surprised by her own playfulness. Nope, he said. Just a question. He walked down and leaned gently against a railing, keeping space. If you could change one thing about this place, what would it be? Lina sat back on her heels. She wasn't used to questions. She was used to orders. Scrub here. Move that. Clean faster. But a question? That was new. She wiped her hands slowly, thought for a moment, I'd stop making kindness optional. Keanu tilted his head. She continued. They talk about culture and values in meetings, but only when it makes them look good. They reward volume, not value. People who yell the loudest get promotions. And people like me, she gestured to her mop, we just disappear into the floor. Keanu was silent for a beat. Then he said, Not today. Upstairs, Trent was mid-presentation with branding consultants when his assistant burst in. Sir, he's not in the conference room. What? He's in the stairwell. With Lina. Trent's voice dropped to a hiss. What the hell is he doing down there? Trent burst into the hallway, face flushed, his voice low but sharp. Where is he now? Conference room B, his assistant whispered. But... Trent didn't wait. He stormed down the corridor, pulling his blazer straight as if that could tighten the situation back into place. He swung open the door and stopped cold. Inside the glass-walled room, Keanu sat calmly at the table. Across from him, sitting where the clients usually sat, was Lina, not in uniform, in a soft navy sweater and jeans, her name badge replaced by something far rarer. Presence. She didn't look small. She didn't look out of place. She looked centered. Keanu turned as Trent entered, completely unshaken. "Trent," he said with that effortless cool, "we're just getting started." Trent forced a tight-lipped smile. "Of course. We weren't expecting." Keanu gestured to the empty chair beside him. "Pull up a seat. I'd like your input too." Trent hesitated. This wasn't the room he controlled anymore. Chloe from HR and Selena stood outside the glass wall, watching like it was theater. Chloe whispered. He gave her the chair, the one no one ever offers. Selena nodded, and she didn't ask for it. He just made space. Inside, Lina spoke. "You want a campaign on empathy? Then start by seeing the people you overlook. Not when the cameras are on. Not when it's trendy, but every single day." No one interrupted her. Not even Trent. Because in that moment, it was clear. This wasn't just about a branding strategy. It was a reckoning. Keanu leaned back slightly and looked around the room. Empathy isn't something you design. It's something you choose. Over and over. Especially when it's inconvenient. No one moved. Because the truth was sitting across from them, in a seat she was never offered. And they couldn't ignore her anymore. It started as a murmur, a whisper that spread from the elevators to the break room, through Slack channels and side eyes across cubicles. "Did you hear? Lina was in the meeting. The meeting. With him." He asked her for advice. Trent didn't even try to shut it down. "No way. Way." For the first time in a decade, Lina's name was spoken with respect. Not pity, not sarcasm, not as a punchline to a joke about bleach and baseboards, but as someone who had been in the room, in the glass-walled conference room. Trent sat stiffly in his chair, still trying to calculate how to spin the narrative. Keanu wasn't performing. He wasn't taking photos. He was listening to Lina talk about dignity, about what it means to be passed in the hallway 100 times without ever being seen, about how silence had never meant acceptance, only fatigue. And the room? It was silent in a new way now, not out of dismissal, out of attention. Downstairs, Daniel from IT texted Chloe. "Hey, I heard Lina's leading the empathy pilot. She's always been the realest person here. About time." In the service hallway, Jorge, another invisible worker, checked the schedule board. Next to it, someone had written in dry erase marker, "Empathy isn't a slogan, it's a shift." No one erased it. That afternoon, Trent returned to his office and shut the door. For once, the blinds didn't feel protective. They felt like walls. He sat behind his desk, opened his laptop, and hesitated. There were emails to write, damage to control. But for the first time in a long time, he realized he wasn't the center of the building anymore. And strangely, part of him was relieved. 2 weeks later, no one could remember exactly when it started. There was no memo, no team-wide announcement, no mandatory seminar with bad coffee and buzzwords. But things were different. The 7th floor elevator stopped more often now, because people had started taking the stairs, not for fitness, but because that's where Lina's words had first echoed, and where others began leaving their own. Sticky notes on the railing, phrases scribbled on whiteboards. Silence is not humility. The janitor knew all along. Empathy isn't marketing. Maintenance staff found them and left replies, not complaints, not demands, just truth. Keanu had returned once more. No cameras, no press, just another coffee in his hand and a soft smile when Lina greeted him at the door this time. Not as a worker, but as a peer. They sat in the back lounge. He handed her a small box. Lina opened it slowly. Inside was a brass plaque, no bigger than a wallet, engraved in quiet, even letters. "This floor stands because she did. Table 7 project." She blinked. "Is this for the stairwell?" Keanu said. Lina's voice caught. He didn't ask for a photo. He didn't wait for thanks. He just sipped his coffee. "People remember monuments," he said, "but they build habits around reminders." Upstairs, Trent saw the post about the plaque on the company intranet. He didn't delete it. He didn't downplay it. He just sat in his chair and quietly shared it. Later that week, Selena drafted the company's first true internal code of conduct. Not from corporate jargon, but from the words Lina had spoken. It began with, We don't raise voices to lead. We raise awareness. Friday morning. Cloudy skies. Light drizzle streaked the office windows like the building itself was exhaling. Lina arrived at her usual time, coffee in one hand, key ring in the other. But something was different. Waiting in the lobby was Chloe from HR and Selena from Creative, both smiling nervously like kids about to ask their mom for permission to skip school. "Lina," Chloe began, "we have kind of a crazy idea." Selena jumped in. "We want you to join the Cultural Inclusion Board." Lina blinked. "The what?" "It's a real thing now," Chloe said. "Like, actually, not just a line in the handbook. We're building for real, and we need a voice that's seen everything. Someone who understands the gaps." Lina shifted uncomfortably. "I'm not trained for that kind of thing." Selena shook her head. "You're not trained because they never let you, but you've been leading this place without permission for 10 years. That afternoon, Keanu returned for one final visit. He declined the press request, declined the speaking engagement, but he didn't decline Lina's invitation. They met again in the stairwell, where the new plaque had been quietly installed. Brass and beautiful. "Looks good here," Keanu said, brushing a finger over the lettering. Lina smiled. "It was always my favorite spot. No one pretended here." He nodded. "That's why I came to it first." She hesitated. "Why did you come at all?" He looked at her, quiet and serious. "Because I wanted to see if kindness could still survive in buildings made of glass." She stared at him. "You think it can?" He smiled. "I think you just proved it." 6 months later, the building was still made of glass, but what reflected inside it had changed. The Cultural Inclusion Board met every Thursday at 10 a.m. in Conference Room 4C, the one that used to be booked exclusively for VIP clients. Now it was filled with people from every department: dishwashers, data analysts, HR, maintenance, mailroom. All of them with a seat. All of them heard. At the head of the table sat Lina, still humble, still quiet. But now, when she spoke, people took notes. The plaque in the stairwell had become a kind of pilgrimage site. Interns passed it on their first day. Executives nodded to it as they walked by. It wasn't grand. It didn't glow, but it held weight. And that weight was earned. Trent had moved offices. Smaller, farther from the windows. He didn't lose his title, but he stopped hiding behind it. Some said he even asked Lina for input on next quarter's hiring policy. She didn't gloat. She gave it. As for Keanu, he never returned. Not officially. But every once in a while, a note would arrive. Folded. Handwritten. No return address. Just short phrases. Still watching. They remember. She's the brand now. They were signed only with a single letter. K. On the anniversary of that first strange day, the company hosted a gathering in the atrium. Not to celebrate a campaign. To acknowledge a culture. No big stage. No hashtags. Just stories shared by the people who used to be invisible. When Lina was asked to speak, she stood in front of the crowd, her old ID badge in one hand and a new one around her neck. She smiled, not with pride, but with peace. "I used to think I was here to clean floors, but maybe I was here to remind people to look down once in a while, not to feel bigger, but to remember who's been holding them up all along." The room went quiet. Then came the applause. Not polite. True. Outside the glass walls, the sky was cloudy again. But inside, everything was clear. Clapper bore the end. Green circle, thank you for watching. Speech balloon, what moment in this story spoke to you the most? Would you have stood up like Keanu or like Lina? Pushpin, let us know in the comments. And remember, kindness doesn't need credit. It just needs courage.